How do we create for a young HR professional who's there in the room? How do they become future ready in the context of what you said? What are the two or three things they should do to be ready for the future among the HR professionals?
Well, it's a tough question. I think it's not just true of HR professional, but for every profession today. I think we need to keep our minds very open and spongy, where we are able to connect the dots. HR, at the end of the day, operates within a social system, techno-social system. And there is, in open systems, as you all know, there is an interaction between the environment and the internal system. We are not closed systems. And therefore, ability to see how geopolitics impacts an organization, including HR. For example, today, because of geopolitics, pandemic, all your talent development plan that involved your expatriation is dead. So if you do not anticipate things of that kind, I think connecting the dots that can be connected, connecting the dots that do not seem to have a connection with each other, I think keeping mind open to be able to combine religious philosophy, literature, HR function knowledge, business, statistics, I think all of this. So therefore, keeping a spongy mind is open. The age of a narrow HR professional who only understands compensation, only understands, don't misunderstand me, specialization is needed and is important. But a narrow specialist is not needed. A specialist who is able to soak in the broader societal point of view and body of knowledge and interdisciplinary insight from different parts would be important. And I would urge them to understand that. Number two, invest into understanding your sector or your organization that you operate in. Very often our knowledge of the sector that we operate in is very superficial. I think we need to invest a little more into understanding the sector, its value drivers, the challenges. My good friend Rajesh is here. He will tell you, you cannot operate in HR today in financial services and banking sector without a deep understanding of regulation. Everything that happens in financial services, banking sector is regulated. RBI regulates, Insurance Regulatory Authority regulates, somebody else regulates. There are regulations and regulations and more regulations. Now, if you say you are an HR guy and you do not relate and understand regulations, that's not going to work. So therefore, I think understanding the sector and its nuances is the second part. And the third part, which is your domain, Murli, in TMI, and the new offering that you are creating, is learning to use data to argue a conviction or a point of view or a case, and learning to use analytics and data to design a program. You know, for a long, long time, HR was an act of faith. Our interventions were an acts of faith. But I think people are no longer willing to buy that unless you are able to give a justification through data. You are able to show impact with data. But again, don't misunderstand me. The role of conviction and courage still is there in leadership. You cannot simply be data driven. Sometimes you have to go counterintuitively against data to take a decision. But that does not preclude your ability to use data, absorption and understanding of data. But I think these broad three things, if new generation HR young people can start working on, I think they'll make finest HR leaders of the future.
Rajeshji, this question is about routine jobs. The question is, as routine jobs are getting automated, workforce is expected to become more experts. Now, if there's such a large productivity variation exists even among experts, what measures should HR take? The assumption normally we make is that people are not trained, we can train them better. But even experts, if there's a wide variation, what can HR do? That's the question which has come. Over to you, Rajesh.
So again, these are, I'll admit these are not easy questions, but let me take a real life example of audit. And I'm taking a financial services example where you'll know the importance of audit. We will have, in a bank of our size, we'll have 600 people. And these are senior people, responsible people. And yes, lots of what auditors used to do usually is getting automated because data is centralized. there are now AI ML tools which can go through multiple records and through aberrations or variances very easily. So at one end, the question may be that there is no need for anyone to go to a branch and go through vouchers and papers. But it's easily available. A click of a button, it's either there or it can be extracted in a millisecond of what usually would take. But when I look back, and as we started our journey of automation in audit in Axis, we realized that it is not about doing away with repetitive jobs. It's about enlarging the intelligence that lies in that data. So manually going to a branch, looking at a voucher and finding a variation because the connecting entry is not there would take lots of time. But suddenly the same things are getting built into our early warning signals. These data points are getting consolidated, and our auditors are becoming data scientists who put all these patterns in front of them and are able to predict the risk rating of every branch to a very granular level on a daily basis. So I'm a strong votary of not jumping or throwing. This can be automated, so let's get the people out and put a machine here. And this same conversation we had 25 years back when robots came into our factories. I remember in chemical factories, we had automation of a different nature altogether. So there is still an opportunity to enhance quality of work by doing more and more, do away with repetitive clerical work, create opportunities for value-adding propositions. Is my message. I can take example in any field. You do recruitment, and the way you have done that through automation in terms of efficacy of people joining, efficacy of their productivity is a real example. You're not thrown people out. You have put different people to different use. So I think we got miles to go before we say that yes, machines can replace human beings, and we need to face the challenge.
Rajesh ji, this question is about people. One of the biggest challenges we find about people is that people don't like to be measured. And as we go into the world of more and more micro measurement, more and more detailing measurement, there is going to be a lot of resentment, and people don't like to be called out. There's a measurement on the output side, measurement on the input side. How do we manage this? I think this is one of the questions in the context of larger quantum of measurement and micro measurement. Over to you, Rajesh.
So Murliji, I think Dr. Mishra alluded to that. It's the whole notion that people don't want to get measured hinges on how does one measure them. None of us want somebody to be watching a camera standing on our head and 24 hours we being watched for each activity. That's true. Secondly, not the systems not being sensitive. And you mentioned that what happens in a branch does not happen in another branch. What's true for one geography may not be true. So having multiple challenges is reality for people. I again going back to the same point. Today, sadly, one area where I think we have misused technology is our performance management systems. These have become so mechanical. There are 20 KRAs, and every morning, the moment I log in, first thing is flash my performance in front of me saying that I'm 3 meters behind my line and all that. And there is no human interface. There is not even a discussion. So either we need to move to more evolved technologies where there is a parallel system which is also explaining rationale and then converting that into how to do performance, as I mentioned earlier. Or maybe, as you mentioned earlier, if more and more is getting automated, the people who are getting free, they should be mentors. They should be performance coaches. HR should reinvent another vertical. I don't know. We have a PMS department, which is only 4 or 5 people. In a large company also. Take the largest company and ask how many people they have in a performance management department, not more than 4. And they will have 40 people in recruitment. Change this paradigm, because your existing people are more than what you're going to hire. The performance of your existing people is more important than what you're going to do with new hires. But still, HR department will put all their energy into hiring and not into performance management. So I will strongly vote for saying have performance coaches who will be there on the screen when I'm looking at my performance every day.
One other question to you is, knowing multiple Indian languages, how are they beneficial to HR people? In what way has it helped you, and how can it help?
So again, I will be foolish if I say that it will help me understand people in. I'm learning Kannada, so idea is not to go to Bangalore branch and start interacting with. It's learning language is a mental process. It's not a language alone. Somebody has told me, it's been proven, riding a bike, doing maths, basic primary maths question, and learning a language makes your mind agile. So this is a self-training program to stay agile. For me, it's not to do with what I'll do with that language. It's something which is almost like a crossword that you may prefer. I prefer a language route to keep my mind fresh and agile.
How should the frontline executive be equipped to manage the changing customer in the marketplace? KK, over to you.
This is an excellent question, but I think this is a work in progress really for most companies because the world is, this is good in the good question, because the world is moving from a situation where everybody wanted a standardized product, which is good, and is to everybody wants very, very specialized products. Now, it's done in two ways. One is every company tries to create more differentiation, creates a range of products which satisfy every consumer needs. But also technology is used, and I can talk about a technology which Coca-Cola uses in the US, where it's a machine which is AI enabled, etc., which can deliver about 400 beverages. You can go and store the type of beverage you want, which can be a mix of Coke and Sprite and Fanta and some juice and whatever it is. And the next time it senses your mobile, it will serve the drink to you. So technology is being used to ensure that they develop this capability. And I think I have read this experience of Asian Paints also, where they have created a machine which can give you any shade you want. You can increase or decrease it. So technology is going to be used. And what is going to happen is some type of distributed manufacturing will evolve, where the salesperson will be equipped to go and sell a solution and not a product. They will possibly sell a machine which can give, say, 500 options, because the retailer cannot stock 500 options, which will be made with 4 or 5 cartridges. Like this is happening in every industry. People are using technology to deliver that. So I would call this as a solution and not a product range. So this is something which is evolving across the world. And in India, I think the person who's really pioneered it is Asian Paints and Paints.